So what do we have here tonight? We have just got the Financial Times FT. So it's a local paper in London. So editorial teams are in London, so London-based paper. So you can see here. Let me show you what you have here. If you read most of the newspaper, what you get is that people go and protest, economy is not good, people go unemployed, recession, depression, I mean all sort of things, negativity that makes you think like, wow, the whole world is falling apart. So I mean that if you get some papers like this, I mean either the Wall Street Journals, the Financial Times, I mean what you see at the first page here is like, it says the HMRC warned of poor service poses threat to tax collection. So basically what it says is that it's not because the government is not able to collect taxes, but the efficiency and the management of the teams responsible for collecting government revenues are not performing very well. So despite the fact that in the UK here we have quite a good legislation that compel individuals and also some companies to pay their taxes every year, but surprisingly this is what it says, that up to 1 in 3 calls went unanswered. So basically the performance of HMRC is basically letting the revenue down. So what you get here, you get a different view in the matter of taxes and government revenue. It's not a matter of who is not paying taxes, is it whether the government is underperforming their duties. So the next thing what you see here is that about the new acquisition of a new game company. I'm not sure I can read here because it's quite dark. Maybe I just put under this big lamp here so you can see much better. So it has a Candy Crush Saga developed by King Digital Entertainment, which is also a London-based company. So it has been acquired by US-based Activision Blizzard for $5.9 billion. So the company is worth $6 billion, approximately $6 billion for the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 years to establish this company. And it tells you that the user base is quite strong here in comparison to most social network sites. King, which is the creator of Candy Crush Saga, has approximately, look at this, 474 million users worldwide, or gamers, 474 million gamers worldwide. Keep in mind that Candy Crush Saga was not an independent game when they started out. It was it's not getting fall down from there. By the way, Candy Crush Saga was basically attached to a social media platform called Facebook previously. If you know about that, before they came out and developed their own apps for mobile phones, so it was attached to Facebook. So in order to use Candy Crush Saga 2 or 3 years ago, you have to have a Facebook account because it's a Facebook-based game. So imagine that today there's a story inside this Financial Times today talking about Facebook most recent quarter's earning. Okay, so if you read about the reports, they just published the quarterly earnings report today by Facebook. So what Facebook has is, until now, they have 1.55 billion active users worldwide, an addition of about 60 million users compared to the last quarter. So it's a huge user base. And among that, if you look into the figures here, is that Candy Crush Saga has about, let's say, 500 million, half a billion users. So if you were to make a direct link between Facebook and Candy Crush Saga, assuming that people know Candy Crush Saga and know how to play it just because it's available on Facebook and their friends are connected through Facebook. So this makes it like 1 in every 3 Facebook users is a gamer of is a player of the game Candy Crush Saga. So you see the markets around there, so which is a huge potential for anyone who want to design games and who want to go into the game development industries, which is a huge market. Look at this. The company is now worth 6 billion. So imagine that in any industries that you're working in, whether or not your company is worth that much more money is another story. So but here the number of user base is so huge that people keep on growing into this the massive expenditures and also the development for the new games to come out. So this is what I would say that it's a good sign that for games developers, they are earning a lot of money in the future if they know what they are doing. So next, what you see about here is that not just that. Oh, I just read the revenue reports for Twitter the other day. Basically, end of October and beginning of November, normally they publish their quarterly earnings reports for the last 3 months. And surprisingly, with Twitter is that, I mean, that even though everyone knows about Twitter, is that you are doing news feeds and short updates, status updates, that most people will be going for Twitter. But surprisingly, the number of active Twitter users worldwide is about 350 or 360 million users, an addition of only 4 million for the last 3 months in comparison to Facebook. So you can see that even though it's quite popular when it comes to news channels, news feed, but one thing is the number of active users compared to Facebook is still far less than that. So I mean that, but the earnings base, I mean for Facebook, I think for the last 3 months, they managed to rake in about, I think, 900 million in profits, mainly through advertising. You know, the Facebook itself, everybody knows, it's a social networking website, a tool or a program, an app, a service to connect people. But if you look carefully, I mean, the Facebook itself is basically an advertising company. I mean, this is where they get most of their revenues from. So if you compare that to Twitter, I mean, Twitter have half of the about, I think, I forgot the figure now. It's about $300 to $400 million earnings the last quarter. So I mean, maybe half of what Facebook has. But one thing is that the number of users basically is just, let's say, it's about 30% of what Facebook has. So which is quite low. I mean, so we look into that, and what you can have from these papers, especially Financial Times, FT, or Wall Street Journal, WSJ, is that you look at the reports. I mean, it gives you much more information on what you have in the society today, and not just people protesting about the economy. People go out and talk about something that they don't even know what they are talking about. The journalists, I mean, for most of the papers that you can see, that most of the times that what their journalists write about that means mainly just a very narrow-minded views on what they know, not what the general people know. I mean, that not everybody knows. So I mean, that it's rather biased view for most of the newspaper that you can see nowadays. I mean, so the next thing that we can see here is that we have a new. This is a national news here talking about the energy sector. So it says that polluting diesel generators eye to fill energy gap. So what they are trying to do is that they are trying to figure out a way to basically bypass the generation of the polluting fuels, the diesel fuels for cars, and they want to modify the architecture for emissions. So this is what they are talking about. If you're interested, you can just read on there, I think. But I mean, for most of the newspaper like FT, you need to subscribe to them. I mean, just about £2 to £3 a day. So I mean, by the way, if you're buying Starbucks coffee a day for the office, I mean, to go to work, I mean, you're spending about £2 a day to £3 a day. I mean, if you're reading a newspaper a day, I mean, it's about £2 to £3 a day. I mean, it's relative. I mean, so it's up to you where you want to spend your money too. I mean, and it's quite interestingly, if you haven't know about that, I mean that on some pages here you can see that there are some advertisements, but at least that from there you learn something which is quite interesting. It says that let me show you one. What is it? You see, HP basically is now called HPE. So it's the Hewlett Packard Enterprise, which is a holding company for HP. I mean, so that you know. Interesting part also, you have some international stories about this, the independence movement in Okinawa, Japan. Yeah, so it's talking about Okinawa feeling growing alienation from Japan. There's some stories about that, why people want to be self-sustained, self-administered, and also possible to become split up from the relationship with their host country or something. So it's quite interesting. I mean, all around that. So I mean, it gives you. I mean, it's not that thick, but one thing is that the paper, but it gives you a lot of insider information about business, about finance, about social issues. I mean, not the negative social issues, by the way. It gives you a little bit more insight into what businesses are thinking, what industries are good for investment. Oh, talking about the headlines here, Candy Crush Saga. If you have bought the shares in King Digital Entertainment prior to this acquisition, today the King's listed stock price per share is $18. If you have bought it at least 6 years ago when the company first listed, 6 or 7 years ago, I think so, it was cost just a few cents. I mean, if you have bought 10,000 shares or 20,000 shares or 100,000 shares today, easily you have become a self-made millionaire in the process. So I mean, this is all about perspective and how you compare numbers in relative form. So keep a copy of this if you want to have a read. I mean, I think you can read some of the summary online for free, but I think most of them are subscription based. But anyway, if you're in London, in UK, there's no reason why you can't just buy a copy and read once in a while. I mean, especially the weekends, the FD weekend is quite nice. I mean, just take a note on that, and possibly maybe it will help you to, I mean, secure against, I mean, the financial futures and how you view the economy in a much different way. I mean, so talk to you again next time. So take care.